Welcome, French Catholics, German Protestants, and all the people caught in between to this, the 253rd episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 18th of April, 2018, and featuring the Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve, written by John Lucarati and Donald Tosh, and starring William Hartnell as the Doctor, Peter Purves as Stephen Taylor, and introducing Jackie Lane as Dodo Chaplet. I'm Randy Ronson McCulloch, your host for this evening, and with me is our technical director, Mad Matt Winchell.
Doing the work of five, and by the way, this week we're rooting for the Germans.
And on the panel this evening is Aaron Romeo Moon Burke.
Hello.
Bill Man in Black Cilia will not be with us tonight as he is busy prepping for an extended trip to Spain. And Tim the Enchanter Sheridan should be on sometime later. He says possibly after the news. He's not sure, he had to work late.
Well, we also got started late because, again, have to do everyone else's chores.
Yeah. And the fact that it's been a busy week for most of us, and we're kind of really uninspired by the telesnaps, has kind of meant why there's no opening bump, because there's really nothing to draw humor from.
At least last week there was actually a bump, the idea that actually worked, and it's like, oh yeah, that's actually kind of works, and it's actually kind of humorous. Sure, go with it.
This week, nothing.
Nothing. Just like this one was like super serious and dry. It's just like, oof.
Yeah. Not even really much to make fun of in that way.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I did have an idea maybe to use like a clip from Helsing Abridged, but I wasn't sure.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
There's a couple of good ones, but yes.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after the stream, just randomly throwing stuff about how it's hitting me now. And I think considering the episode you're thinking of is one I've been watching repeatedly for the past week. Anyway, on tonight's show, we've got what there is of the news. And I will tell you, there's not a lot this week.
Nope.
We
got more birthdays than we got news, I think.
Oh yeah. Between birthdays and Big Finish, that's the bulk of stuff. We do have some geek talk. I had a little time to watch some stuff, and if we get Tim back by then, he's seen a movie.
He should be hopefully here by then. So.
I don't really have a rant of the week. And then we'll get to the summary, followed by our episode review, our thoughts, our ratings, and then our final thoughts. And we'll close it out, possibly in one of our shortest podcasts ever.
Yay.
So let's move it on to birthdays. And like I said, there are a lot of birthdays this week. Fortunately, it makes up for lack of news a little bit. A lot of these birthdays are big birthdays.
That's why it's a long list.
So starting on the 13th of April, I think not long after our last podcast.
A day or two.
13th was last Friday, so yeah, a couple days. We celebrated the birthday of Peter Davidson, the Fifth Doctor, from 1982 to 84. Turned 67. Then the following day, on Saturday, the 14th of April, we also had the birthday of Peter Capaldi, so basically birthday of the Peters. The 12th Doctor from 2013 to 2017 turned 60. Think about that for a moment. 30 years difference in their one, and it's only a 7 years difference.
Yeah. He's slightly younger than the Fifth Doctor. Think about it, won't you?
Also, on the same day in April, we had the birthday of Terrence Dicks, writer, script editor from 1968 through 74, who turned 84. On Sunday, the 15th...
He's good run right now.
Yeah, he's still going. I mean,
and he's still going. Yeah, he's still doing specials and stuff once in a while, and conventions occasionally.
Yep. On the 15th of April, Sunday, we had the birthday of Maisie Williams, who played Ashildr/Me in Series 9. She turned 21, and because she was in multiple episodes, she deserves to be on this list.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
She might even be a returning character, depending.
And then Monday, the 16th of April, we had the birthday of Derek Sherwood, writer and script editor for Doctor Who in 1968. He turned 82. Uh, on Tuesday, yesterday, the 17th of April, David Bradley, the first Doctor in 2017, turned 76. He's technically a doctor. He gets to be on the list.
Yep. If there's any more First Doctor appearances, he's probably going to be there.
And 18 today, we have a Grand Slam 4 birthdays.
4 Doctors.
First of which, and the most important of which, is the birthday of David Tennant, the 10th Doctor, from 2005 to 2009, and in 2013 turned 47. Also on the same day is Camille Coduri, Jackie Tyler, who was on the series from 2005 to 2009. I don't know why I can't say that today. Turned 53. So yes, Rose's mom was 6 years older than the Doctor. Also, same day, Eric Roberts, the Master from 1996, turned 62. And he's only 2 years older than Peter Capaldi.
Question is, does he still dress for the occasion?
I have no idea anymore. And finally, the only posthumous birthday on this list is David Whittaker, writer, script editor from 1963 to 64, who would have been 90 but died in 1980 at 51.
That being said, there's only like literally one black and white picture of him on the net.
Yeah, well, he was freaky. He died in 1980, back when, color cameras were still new in America.
Mm-hmm.
And he, was kind of a little bit reclusive by that point too. So most of the pictures were probably from the 60s.
60s or maybe 70s.
Yeah. But anyway, happy birthday to Peter, Terrence, Maisie, Derek, David, Camille, Eric, and posthumously David.
Oh my God, all the Davids!
Man, if I had had more time this week, I would have tried to do those birthdays to a tune. But then again, then you'd have to hear me sing.
Yeah.
The David rap.
The David rap. The Peter and David
David
rap. Isn't that an author?
I think so.
Okay.
Even more reason to do this song now. Anyways.
So, anyway, onward to cast and crew news and our only piece of news outside of Big Finish.
Thank God for... Can you imagine if Big Finish had a slow day?
Oh God, you'd be dead in the water right now.
We'd be going in. That's all the news, folks.
Half hour folks, goodbye.
News in 5 minutes.
All right.
All right, Russell T. Davies and Stephen Moffat on Graham Norton Radio. Stephen Moffat and... Oh, sorry,
Yeah, you don't need to read the underlined stuff. That's just the link.
I'm sorry. It's snowing outside. It's like, 4 inches at least that we've gotten. Mostly slush by now, but it's just...
In mid-April, too.
Mid-April, yeah.
Anyway, on with the article, hon.
You're rambling.
All right, so Stephen Moffat and Russell T. Davies recently had an interview on BBC Radio 2 with host Graham Norton regarding the target novelizations of New Doctor Who. However, before he got to that, they talked a bit about the production handovers. When Russell was asked about the handover to Moffat, he remarked that we worked for...
He worked. I'm sorry, that's a typo.
That he worked for Russell. They had a luncheon about it, to which Russell added, lunch in Soho, that was it. I just said, good luck. When Moffat was asked whether he had a handoff to Chibnall, he said, we kept meaning to have a proper dinner, but then we didn't because Chris is incredibly busy, So the very last time I left the studios at Roath Loch, Cardiff, I walked past the meeting room and I saw Chris sitting in the middle of the horseshoe of people who were staring at him in hope, and I saw the look on his face and I thought, he's sitting in my terrifying chair. I'll go in and hug him goodbye. and I got into the back of a car and played lots of Murray Gold music on my headphones. It was brilliant. When the interview goes on to talk about the new Target novelizations that Davies and Moffat wrote, and the fact that Graham Norton was included in a new scene in Rose, a joke reference to the fact that on the first broadcast, a few seconds of Graham Norton's voice was dubbed over a scene due to a BBC error. When asked what their future plans were, Russell basically said he's going back to his wheelhouse, writing LGBT-oriented comedies and dramas. As for Moffat, he talked about the new Dracula series he's doing with Gaddis. Both claim to be completely done with Doctor Who now, except as fans.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, once it's in your
I-
blood,
I
I
give you
swear
a-
that Russell has said that he's done with Doctor Who like 4 or 5 times now, and
I give you about
way.
10 years. 10 years, and you're going to be back in the Big Finish.
I don't even think it'll be
You'll be
that
knocking
long.
at the BBC going, do you need scripts?
I think 5 years tops, and they'll be working for Big Finish again. So that's it for the main news. We do have some Big Finish news. Released yesterday, the main reign starts a trilogy of unit adventures featuring, of all people, the Fifth Doctor. In the Heliax Rift, Unit Medical Officer Daniel Hopkins meets the Doctor and convinces him to work for a new unit team consisting of himself, his boss, Lieutenant Colonel Price, and Corporal Maxwell. I have no other information on what the story is about other than that. The Helix Rift can be purchased from the Big Finish website for £14.99 on CD or £12.99 download. It can be gotten as part of a main raid subscription of either 6 or 12 releases for a 30% discount. And that includes all of those short trips that we talked about last week.
Okay.
And released today is the newest in the Big Finish Chronicles series, The 10th Doctor Chronicles. Impressionist Jacob Dudman provides narration and most of the voices for the 10th Doctor Chronicles. 4 adventures featuring the Doctor and Rose, the Doctor and Martha, the Doctor and Sylvia Noble, played by Jacqueline King, who played her in the series, and finally, the Doctor and Lady Christina D'Souza, Michelle Ryan, who played her in the series. Stories include The Taste of Death by Helen Goldwyn, Backtrack by Matthew J. Elliott, Wild Pastures by James Goss, Last Chance by Guy Adams. The 10th Doctor Chronicles can be purchased from Big Finish for £23 on CD, £20 download. Or you can save money with a bundle with the 9th Doctor Chronicles for £60 CD, £55 download. And that is it for the news.
Dead on arrival.
Literally, that's it. Done. Okay, so moving on to our Geek Talk section. Yeah, it's going to be, Tim's going to get it. It's like, nah, sorry, Tim, we got done with Geek Talk. Anyway, Erin had a little visit from her relatives this week, so she was gone most of the weekend,
Woohoo, I went swimming.
which kind of gave me an extended Netflix and chill weekend. So I polished off a bunch of stuff on Netflix. First thing I did is I finished watching season 2 of Jessica Jones, the latest in the Marvel Netflix series that dealt with Jessica Jones. And this was a little different from the first season. The first season, you had a very palpable, in-your-face enemy in the form of David Tennant's The Purple Man. Here, you have more of a, is it an enemy or is it a friend or what is it going on? Kind of a, more of a moral gray zone, which was kind of interesting, although, really, Jessica Jones needs more of that. You also dealt with a lot of consequences for basically everyone else in the group. It was interesting. There was parts of it I liked better and parts of it I didn't. I will tell you, there is some cameos by David Tennant as the Purple Man. I will not reveal if it's a present or flashback or what's going on with it because it's interesting. It is, however, Jessica, it is a good watch. If you haven't watched it already, I would suggest doing so. I put it off for a while because I've had other things on my mind. So yeah, thumb up.
Thumbs up.
Next on my review list, I watched a little show called ReBoot: The Guardian Code. Now this is meant for children, and I should give you a little backstory on this if you didn't know. In the 1990s, there was a cartoon on ABC television Saturday mornings called ReBoot. It was basically about the world inside your computer, which involved these heavy CGI characters fighting, basically getting fighting two viruses while occasionally getting trapped into games that they had to defeat the user in, or basically the whole sector they're in would be nullified. It was very smartly written because everything in there, if you looked at it, was analogous to what goes on in your computer. Um, it had a lot of problems during its production run because it kept running into issues by ABC's Bureau of Standards and Practices, which thought the stupidest things about the show. Like, for instance, that a sister kissing a brother on the cheek was promoting incest. It also had trouble with a character showing any kind of cleavage, basically forcing the main female lead into what is referred to as the mono boob, because it basically was a giant angular rectangle on her chest by the time Standards and Practices got done with it. After 2 seasons, the show was canceled on ABC. It was brought back 5 years later by Cartoon Network in a 3rd season where they didn't have to deal with BS&P, and it basically was the most awesome season they ever had. 16 episodes of full-on parody and gloriousness.
Parody, gloriousness, and no censors smacking their hands telling them you can't do that.
There was some censors, but it's only, what you would normally get in that.
The normal level, as opposed to, oh my god, at everything.
Correct. You got to remember, this was ABC. This was the channel that eventually got purchased by Disney. So it had that kind of that.
And even Disney has tame standards compared to what they had, apparently.
Yeah, they needed to keep this clean cut moral. I think before that they were owned by a Christian company, and that might explain it.
That might explain it a little bit, yeah.
Anyway, they ran for a season on Cartoon Network and 2 extended 4-part miniseries. That basically became season 4. Left on a cliffhanger, and then nothing happened for 20 years. Then we got this. This show has about as much to do as what I've mentioned in the last 3 minutes as a piece of paper has with a grilled cheese sandwich.
Actually, you'd be surprised with a piece of paper and grilled cheese. At least you can hold it.
Yeah. And I can tell you what this has. It has Megabyte. It has the word Guardians.
It has Megabyte for about a hot minute, and then they completely convert him into something.
Well,
that's not really Megabyte.
He's still technically Megabyte. He looks vaguely like Megabyte after the conversion.
Yeah.
He still acts like Megabyte to an extent. But it's and then the last episode, I'll deal with that in a moment. But the concept of this series is that 4 high school students at the wonderfully named Alan Turing High are experiencing their first day when a hacker who is dressed like a stereotypical hoodie-wielding thug, or hoodie-wearing thug, decides to start hacking a power center using what is called dark code in the show. These students are promptly transferred to room 0 in their school, which turns out to be in the basement, and actually houses a device that allows them to materialize inside computers and fight this viral code from within. Does this sound familiar to anybody? It should.
Sounds like a mixture of Dot Hex, Sign, and Tron.
And Code Lyoko, a series that came out about 10 years ago.
Code Lyoko is essentially a different interpretation of an idea similar to Dot Hack, but it has its own different twists. Anyway.
But yeah, it sounds basically like Code Lyoko. And it's so much so that even the creators of Code Lyoko after watching the series, tweeted the creators of this show and said, "Boy, you really liked our show, didn't you?" I am not kidding on that. Anyway, it actually comes off as a kind of a cross between Code Lyoko, Power Rangers, and a couple other bits and bobs here and there. Because there's a lot of this flashing back to what's going on at high school, kind of like Power Rangers did. So it's kind of a hash up of that that's just a really kind of meh. And it doesn't feel like ReBoot at all. The Guardians don't do what the Guardians did in the original show.
Nope.
Megabyte, well, first of all, they couldn't get Megabyte's original voice actor because he died, I think, about 10 years ago. That would be the late,
Something
great
like
Tony
that.
Jay.
Mm-hmm.
The guy they got does a good job sometimes, but he can't get that level of depth most of the time.
Yeah, like apparently when he needs to get manic, he can't hold it.
Yeah, he can't go down far enough and keep the accent. He does a great job with the accent, but it's just that he doesn't have that tonal range. And the fact that basically Megabyte is on a leash for most of the series is kind of an issue too.
Yeah,
To this,
that kind of kneecaps him.
Yep. It is a very pale, very bad imitation of why they even bothered to make it ReBoot. I don't know. The very last episode has the characters running into a lot of the characters from the original ReBoot show. Only no actual thought into continuity was involved in this. Because none of the changes that were made to the characters at the end of the last season or two are present. Dot Matrix, the main female lead, the one with the monoboob I mentioned, is back to her look from basically seasons 1 and 2. Bob, the main male lead, shows none of his things. There was no reference to Matrix, who was a grown-up version of one of the other characters. And they didn't seem to recognize that anything outside of their computer was a thing, when that was pretty much the entire point of their third season. So it was very badly done by people that basically were cashing in on the name ReBoot, but didn't really know or understand a thing about ReBoot.
And didn't even seem to try.
Yes. And this is partially because the company involved with this has been purchased and repurchased so many times over. It was originally Mainframe Incorporated, a Canadian company. Shortly after ReBoot ended, it was purchased by a company called Rainmaker, and then was renamed into Rainmaker Entertainment. And now it has reverted back to Mainframe, although I think it's switched owners a few times since then. So the production staff behind this, there's probably nobody on this staff that even dealt with the original show.
Yeah, at this point, they would have made a lot more bang for their buck if they just would have released the original series in a box set or something.
They have. I think
Good, I'll buy that and completely ignore that this thing ever existed.
The fact is, I was leery about this when I heard it was going to be a combination of live action and animation. I'm like, whoa,
I never
what's
even
this?
had the live action part. I just remember people them constantly getting delayed, and it's just like, the longer this gets delayed, the more this sounds like this is going to be a bad idea.
Well, what would happen is they would release this. They would release it. Yes, we're bringing back ReBoot. And then the company would wind up nearly going bankrupt, get bought out, and nothing would be said for a couple of years. Then it's like, yes, we're bringing back ReBoot.
Arg.
And repeat. Lather, rinse, repeat for 10 years. So that's kind of what happened there. This is not a show to watch. I mean, without a ReBoot, without the ReBoot references, it would be okay. It would not be great. But it would be, you'd be just like, okay, so somebody just basically made a Code Lyoko clone. I can deal with that.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're making this as a follow-up to the legacy of what is still remembered by a lot of kids from the 90s as one of the greatest cartoons that came out of Saturday mornings, it is a travesty, and eh, it's kind of painful to watch as your
It
childhood
is
gets
officially the
balled up
black
and
mark.
wadded. And
Yeah, this is officially people just trying to bank on that buck that should have been banked on a long time ago.
There's not even very much of it on the ReBoot Wiki page.
it's because they're probably trying to ignore it.
Probably because they're trying to also ignore the huge amount of negative backfeed.
Well,
Yep.
and apparently the fourth season of the animated series was pretty much botched as well.
No, the original series. No, that was the
Mhm.
miniseries. That was Damon Rising and My Two Bobs. That was good watch.
Well, it was the initial plans for the fourth season include 3 films broken into 12 episodes, followed by a 13th musical special episode. Due to a change in deals and budget, the series was reduced to 8 episodes. The following plan was to produce 30-minute episodes. Against the writer's wishes, these scenes were cut from the scripts. All right.
Well,
Yeah,
it
no,
just means that
basic.
there's a lot of conflict in the background. It doesn't mean that the actual
Yeah,
making
what
of it was
happened was
botched.
they were supposed to. They were
Af-
hoping to.
well,
They were
af-
hoping. They were hoping
After
to
the
bank.
decision was made to take it down to 8 episodes, the eighth one was written as a cliffhanger, which Gavin Blair has publicly refused to reveal the plans for the resolution of the final episodes in case he ever got a chance to resolve the cliffhanger.
He should do that now because it's not happening after this.
Mhm.
Make his
But
own
no,
fan made version. But anyway,
yeah. Basically, what happened was there were supposed to be 3 arcs in, like, basically three 4-part arcs. That was going to be, like I said, Damon Rising, which dealt with this whole thing that started in season 3. My Two Bobs, which was basically a follow up from that, and then The Hunt, which was pretty much how season 4 wound up ending, was prepare for the hunt. But because he never got and at the moment when they got approved to 2, they were kind of hoping Cartoon Network would bank up for a third based on ratings. But Cartoon Network at the time was beginning to look to shut down its Toonami line and didn't feel like putting the effort into it. And so that's why they only got the 8 and why it ended on a cliffhanger. But anyway, that's the original show and not the Guardian Code. Anyway, don't watch the Guardian Code unless you're this diehard ReBoot fan who just needs to know, and you're going and be prepared to be disappointed. I was going into it. I
brace
knew it was
yourselves
going to
for
be crap.
impact.
Yep. All right. So the third thing I watched on my epic Netflix and chill weekend was the new Netflix version of Lost in Space. Now, unless you've been under a rock for like 50 years, you know the story of Lost in Space.
Mhm.
It deals with the family Robinson who was planning on making a trip to Alpha Centauri, who wind up getting lost in space. You know the characters: Professor Robinson, Mrs. Robinson, Judy, Penny, Will, and Dr. Smith, and the robot. Well, throw all that shit out the window. Because
Okay.
while it's still the family Robinson, there are so many fundamental differences that they could almost be seen as inversions of their characters. For example, Professor or the John Robinson, aka Professor Robinson in the original, is a scientist. He is not the main man of action, but he will do so under stress. In the what was it, like 2000 movie
Mm-hmm.
version of
2000s.
of Lost in Space, he was more of a pacifist. In this one, he's a military officer.
Ah.
So he's not even a professor at all. He's literally spent multiple tours of duty fighting wars, and is now joining the Robinson, joining with his family to go to this planet because Earth has basically been impacted by a meteor and is unable to support a full population anymore. Joy, huh?
Fantastic. So they're just getting shot into space to see if they can make it.
Oh no, they're part of a massive colony ship
Mm.
that's heading over. The thing is, the colony ship is attacked en route, and everybody's forced to jettison in these little like kind of combination between house and life pod, the various Jupiters. And there's a whole bunch of Jupiters in this, which is, by the way, another difference between this and the original Lost in Space. We just heard from Tim, by the way. He will not be able to join us tonight. He's still waiting for a subway train.
Oh, joy.
Yeah. So we will go ahead and finish this. Anyway, yeah. So so instead of being stranded alone on a planet, they are stranded on a planet originally isolated for a bunch of people and then forced to work as a group. Which kind of deals in like intercolony politics and some stuff that comes up. Kind of different from your Lost in Space. Another difference is that the Robinsons have marital issues, which has never come up before. They were basically the nuclear family in space. Judy, the eldest daughter, is adopted in this. Might be because they decided to cast someone of a different ethnicity than the parents, but I don't know if that was their original plan or just something they did when they got the casting. Will Robinson, originally played by Bill Mumy in the original series, usually is played as kind of this brilliant, like 10, 12-year-old. Well, here, they had to cheat to get him to pass the exams to get on the colony ship because he has a lot of confidence and panic issues. And yes, the mother actually calls in a cheat to get him to be able to get on the colony ship, because he occasionally freezes under pressure. So, great. The robot, which, is usually part of the Jupiter 2's complement. I mean, it's like standard, all Jupiter vessels come with a robot to help with environmental issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not in this version. The robot's actually from the part of the alien race that attacked the Jupiter 2. It is damaged and gets repaired and thus becomes loyal to Will Robinson.
Oh.
So that's completely different. Dr. Smith in this is a woman, but other than that, is still very much Dr. Smith. She plays it as an absolute asshole that has no moral compunctions whatsoever. But all in all, it's like, let's take and invert as much as we can about Lost in Space.
Oh, so they also dropped off one of the daughters, too.
Nope, Penny's there. No, because it's Judy and Penny are both there.
Because you only mentioned the one, but okay.
Because the other Penny is played very she's not played very different from her archetype.
Oh.
That is to say, I think she's a little smarter.
Curious, but not dumb curious.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is a good change.
All differences aside, this isn't a bad watch.
Okay.
But if you're going into it expecting it to feel like Lost in Space, it won't.
Not at least the exact same carbon copy, no.
If you're expecting, however, a good sci-fi drama, this is a good thing. Kind of imagine it kind of like the 2000s Battlestar Galactica was to the original Battlestar Galactica. Most of the bare bones essential of the plot is there, but a lot of the characterizations and motives are different. That's kind of what you see here, and its focus is completely different too. The whole idea of there being other Jupiters on the same planet, and they're forced to kind of work together to get off the ship, to get off the planet before the colony ship departs, is basically an underlying plot. So it's a good watch. Don't get me wrong. It's just not the Lost in Space you may be expecting.
Don't expect your mom and dad's Lost in Space here.
Yeah. We'll have to wait till next week for Tim's review of Ready Player One, because he's, of course, not going to be here tonight. So that's going to take us to the review. I believe Tim did it last week, right?
I did it last week, actually.
Fuck.
So, which one of you two wants to do it, or do you really want me to do it again?
Because I was planning on holding out until the War Machines in a couple of weeks.
I could summarize this if you want me to.
If you want to, Matt, please do.
I was gonna say you probably don't want me to.
Are you kidding me? You don't you captivate me every time just to see how much Randy will fidget.
Actually, no. I will do it, and then you can do the Savages next week.
Okay.
Expect a very brief summary.
I can do the Savages next
let's-
week, unless, of course, we get Tim back, in which case Tim will
Mhm.
probably do it.
Yeah, it looks like I don't know. Did you guys mention it already that Tim probably won't be on tonight?
Yes, we've just covered it like twice.
Okay.
Yep.
Now you've covered it a third time.
Yep. Doesn't need to be said anymore. All right. So you ready?
Yep.
All right. So the TARDIS lands in 16th century France, a few days before the events of St. Bartholomew's Eve, in which the Huguenots were basically slaughtered by the Catholic French. It's basically a religious thing. Anyway, they are completely unaware of this as the doctor goes out to visit a apothecary of some scientific renown. After waiting for him for a day, Stephen gets a little concerned and goes looking for him, and eventually runs across what was it, the Archbishop or um, basically this religious leader that looked just like the doctor. Thinking it is the doctor in disguise, he kind of goes to try to drop in on him and discovers that they have a plan to assassinate somebody, an admiral. Um, he goes back to his newfound friends who are a little leery since he thinks he knows the opposition, his Huguenot friends, and they attempt to warn the admiral, but not soon enough as he is shot, but fortunately not fatally. They go forward, and to prove, Stephen goes to prove that this is not the doctor. Unfortunately, this particular religious leader is killed, and the Huguenots are blamed for it. This, of course, rises up religious intolerance in France to a whole new high. During which Stephen, of course, fully believes that was the doctor that was dead. Eventually, him and a serving girl go back to the apothecary's place where he finds the doctor's cane, kind of wondering what's going on there, and eventually runs into the doctor himself. Talking with the doctor, they discover what year it is. The doctor realizes what's about to happen, convinces the serving girl to go home, and they basically escape in the TARDIS before all France descends into killing hell. Stephen's outraged that the doctor didn't help the serving girl by having her escape with them in the TARDIS, and threatens to leave, as they are arriving apparently in more or less modern day London. He goes out, and while the doctor is waxing poetic on how he's all alone now, a young girl comes rushing in, thinking it's an actual police box and looking for a phone. While the doctor is trying to explain to her that she'll just have to find another box, Stephen comes running in and says the police are coming. And the doctor, hearing this, of course, promptly takes off in the TARDIS with Stephen and the girl there. The girl eventually introduces herself as Dorothea or Dodo Chaplet, coincidentally the same last name as the French serving girl had, and Stephen notices there's a bit of a resemblance. Dodo does claim that her family does originally come from France, several generations back, and Stephen continues traveling with the doctor, inspired by the fact that maybe his friend did live after all.
Mm-hmm.
The end.
And 3 minutes 13 seconds.
Yay!
All right, so Tim is out, Bill is out. Let's see. Aaron,
Everybody's out.
what did you like about the episode?
Overall,
Mm-hmm.
I think I did kind of like the political intrigue type thing that was going on. Of course, you've got like the head honcho of the conspiracy to destroy the Huguenots is Catherine de Medici. Of course, being a Medici, that means she's instantly evil and irredeemable and whatnot. So, at least in most like movies and plays and stuff like that, historical dramas, because they were just inherent. Yeah, I kind of like that because I don't know, it's pretty much what happened in history, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
I didn't get a chance to research much of it.
I watched the beforehand video, and a lot of this was truly inspired by actual history. Obviously, the fine
Mhm.
details are fixed around the fact that we're adding Doctor Who characters, but
Mhm. Yeah. So, yeah, I enjoyed that. A lot of kind of running around people. It was fun to see like the doctor being mistaken. I actually kind of I think I liked this almost better than I liked Enemy of the World. How they did in Enemy of the World, where Patrick Troughton's doctor is mistaken for the villain trying to take over the world, which was kind of interesting in itself, but it was a little bit over the top. This was a lot more subtle. The duplicate wasn't. I don't know. I guess he wasn't exactly the head villain. He was
he's
actually
part of a circle of villains, essentially.
yeah, he was basically he was almost a lackey for the head villain, who was also a lackey for Catherine de Medici.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was at Nevers or something like that,
Something like that.
or is it Tavar or something? I can't quite remember, but yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed running around, uh, people being fingered as the spies and whatnot. So, that was kind of what kind of piqued my interest for the show, for the story, I should say. That's it for
Okay.
me.
Matt, how about you?
Um, Overall thing I liked about the story, or about these
Mm-hmm.
episodes in general,
Mm-hmm.
um, I do like that Steven gets a chance to stand on his own feet and not be completely dumb, which is a
Yeah,
huge reverse from last couple of episodes that we've reviewed.
this is actually a really Doctor Light episode too.
Technically speaking, yes.
That was deliberately so.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, I'll give a little bit of backstory here if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
William Hartnell's health was already failing by the time they
Mm-hmm.
were doing this episode. Furthermore, he was expressing some boredom with the role, and it might have just been his frustration over the lines or what have you. But he was showing some fatigue with the character. So when they made this, they made it specifically Doctor Light, so they could rest up and focus on somebody else and not have to worry about William Hartnell's acting.
And give Hartnell just a couple cameos and be done.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
gave him something else to chew on, and the secondary writer and script editor, what was his name? I said it earlier. Donald Tosh said that he thought the doctor's acting as the cardinal or whatever was a lot better than his acting had recently been as the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then again, also at the same time, William Hartnell got an entire scene where he just got to lay around on his back. So he literally got to relax on set.
Was that where he was basically being dead?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in this scene, Bill, you just got to be a corpse.
Just lay on
Don't
your
worry
back,
about
try not to
anything else.
blink, try not to fidget too much. And action.
All right. All right. So continue.
But Steven finally gets to actually do some stuff. He gets to not only be a little bit of a fighter, although he doesn't really put up any major fights. Like there's one sword fight, and he just kind of half-heartedly is just trying to protect himself, not so much actually trying to legit fight.
Oh God, the telesnaps were terrible on that particular spit.
Yeah, it was hard to
Yeah.
tell what was really going on there, and the audio didn't help much. Um, but he also gets to sneak around. He gets to spy. He gets to learn the information. He tries to get in contact with the people that he feels are requiring the information that is kind of that they do require because they're essentially people higher ups are trying to kill their people.
Mhm.
He befriends a serving girl who then in turn helps him try and hide throughout the city. And if nothing else, if things go completely horribly for them, she can probably help him escape the city before things got too bad.
All
Um,
right.
it just there, Steven was given so much really good stuff to prove that he's not just a one-note idiot.
Okay. All right. Is it my go now?
Yep.
What I loved is how they kept teasing that this was going to be Steven's final serial.
Oh yeah. At the very end there for that last
Oh,
episode in
not
particular.
just the last episode. If you watch the relationship between Steven and the serving girl, you kind
Oh,
of got the concept that yeah, he was going to go off with the serving girl at the end of it, which would have been
he
pretty much
might.
a typical Doctor Who departure plot. And then they completely subvert it by the last second by the Doctor going, "No, you need to go home." Da da da, and then taking off on the TARDIS without it, and then him getting so pissed about that. But you're just sitting there. It's like, is he going to leave? Is he not going to leave? And I bet there were rumors at the time that he was planning on leaving, and he wound up staying around for another half year or so. So,
Mm-hmm. Oh, and
I
that
just
also that curveball of making the serving girl a new companion.
yep. Actually, was that?
If they weren't the same actress, they at least picked two actresses that were similar enough. I'm not sure.
Um, that was kind of hard to tell because, to be honest,
Again,
the
telesnaps.
telesnaps were very grainy.
Mm-hmm. They're very old, and some of them had to be photoshopped to even be functional. And
Okay, what was her name? Anne was played by Annette Robinson, so that's not the same actress.
not the same actress, so they picked two actresses that at least had some similarities to them.
Although interesting, around the time this was made, uh, or actually no, not by the time this was made, a couple of years prior to this, Annette Robinson, who played Anne in this,
Mm,
was married to John Hurt.
Hmm.
really?
Yep.
Hmm.
So, just another case of world being small.
Yeah.
When Doctor Who started, she was married to John Hurt. Anyway, uh, let's see. What did I like? That is what I liked about it.
Yep.
What
So.
didn't you like? I know you've been waiting for this, Aaron. Go.
Oh yeah, I'm overall did not like the sound quality. I know it's a telesnap. I know they don't have much to work with at all, but holy crap.
The
Just like
constant background hissing and clicking.
yeah, the constant background and then like there was one scene, I think it was Tavar or whoever the conspirator, one of them meets with Catherine, and it's just so muffled. Like the sound, you can barely understand what they're saying in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Couple of
just
scenes
like,
like that.
it's like,
It's like trying to listen to Kenny.
yeah, pretty much.
Damn it, Kenny! Why'd you get on Doctor Who?
I didn't realize the entire cast was replaced by the Pyro from Team Fortress 2.
Um, yeah, and I'm kind of hoping. Remember, we did a news article a few weeks ago about somebody who donated his entire library of audio recordings to the BBC. I'm
Maybe
hoping
this,
that they
maybe some of
now.
them will be clean enough.
Yeah, I'm hoping some of these will be cleaner than this because
Pretty please.
this was annoying. Um, Because yeah, this is a lot of this one in particular. You can tell somebody just pretty much put a tape recorder up to their TV speaker. That's how they have surviving audio. Okay, Matt, how about you? What didn't you like about the serial?
What did I like about the serial? I had something now. I forgot what it was. I was commenting on the thought. Oh, bugger. What did I have? I had it. Come on, brain. Why is it now that it's my turn? I can't remember what I had in my head. Um, what else thing I didn't like? I've lost it. I completely lost my train of thought and it's gone now. I can't. It's just. I'll come back to me if I can think of it. Go ahead.
Apparently, Matt's
My brain just hemorrhaged all of
Matt's
the
train of
memory.
thought is run by Amtrak.
Apparently. God damn it.
All right.
I had it and it's gone.
All right. So what I didn't like is the fact that there was literally no point to this episode. Nothing they did made a lick of difference. And I guess that might be coming through with a new Who mentality in my head. But, even if you manage to save somebody, it feels like, at least you've done your good for the day. But this one, had Steven and the doctor not been there, everything would have go out the exact same way. And that's just kind of it's something that I think you have to deal with in the early seasons, that eventually Doctor Who winds up mostly discarding because you don't see the historicals that much anymore, and I guess that's one of the drawbacks of a historical is you can't really change the effects of history.
I mean, we've seen the Doctor run into fixed points of time before.
Yeah,
And it's
but
always kind of depressing, but still.
yeah, I mean, well, you think of like the one where he's at Vesuvius on Volcano Day.
Mm-hmm.
And originally he's like, I can't do anything, but Donna basically tells him, just save somebody. Even if you can't save everybody, save somebody. And that's kind of, what you're not seeing here is it's just like the doctor is just doesn't make a difference, doesn't help. And I don't know, for me, the doctor always needs to help in one way or another, Even if you can't change things, just to be there to help. I don't know. Maybe it's the new Who in me coming through. Matt, did you come up with anything?
I'm trying to struggle to find. I was a really good one that I had, and that's my brain just completely. You didn't say it in time. Bye. God, and it was a good one too. And it's like it's in the back of my brain, and my brain just does not want to bring it up. Just trying to think of something off the top of my head, something bad overall. Fuck, come on. There's plenty that I could have picked on. How about a lack of explanation between the monk character and the doctor?
The abbot?
Yeah, the abbot, yeah. Like there's like there's like the main story arc of the doctor just disappearing. They don't explain it, they don't tie it together properly, nothing. He just disappears. Is he the abbot? We don't find out. We're not told. We're not shown anything, not hinted at anything. He just vanishes and comes back inexplicably.
I think it's supposed to be where you think they're trying to seriously trick you into thinking that the doctor has disguised himself as the abbot and is now dead.
Because he had done that kind of thing before. That was part of the main plot of the Romans. Is he's mistaken for this lyre player that's heading to Rome to play for the emperor.
All I want is like the doctor, after they find him again, to just say, no, I was off doing this thing or that thing, and that would just be enough. That's all I would need. But they don't want to explain anything after the fact, even. it just kind of like, well, where the hell did he go? If he's gonna keep running off like this, why would anyone trust him?
Now that was kind of the original thing about the Doctor was you weren't supposed to know whether you could trust him or not, but still.
It just brings up a lot of questions that the Doctor himself completely avoids and doesn't answer.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's really no point to why he avoids them either.
Mm-hmm. So that's that. I guess that's something. It's not what I was contending on, but yeah, go for
All
that one.
right. All right. So, favorite scene, Aaron.
I'm going to say the scene where the doctor reveals that he isn't the abbot finally, and that he's okay, and that it's still kind of serious. It kind of, now that Rand mentioned the whole Hartnell thing, getting kind of bored with the doctor's role, it kind of is depressing because he kind of resumes the role of the doctor, and you can kind of tell the actor's like, well, here I am again, yay! I'm alive. I'm not doing something else with my life other than Doctor Who. So it's not quite the fanfare. I mean, it is a little bit of a triumphant feeling because you're just like, oh my god, we can move on with the story because
We're
we've
no
been
longer
watching
stuck here.
Steven running around, which is nice for a change, but at the same time, just as things kind of start dragging and just as it seems like it really does seem like Steven's been abandoned almost. And to be honest, I wonder what would have happened. Like, because it doesn't seem like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like the doctor was trying too hard to get back in touch with him.
Now, the whole thought was the Doctor was supposed to have been distracted by chatting this scientific gobbledygook with this apothecary, and to be honest, that that was kind of thin.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, that's thin. Um,
But no one else is thin Triscuits. Mm.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean that was kind of cool because I was kind of beginning to wonder if maybe the doctor wandered off and forgot about, well, he did wander off and forget about Steven, but like, what if he does that permanently? It's just like, oh my god, did they actually forget him and then come back for
He is a
him?
doddering
So
old man, so it is possible.
yeah, so it was
oh
just, it
yes,
was
here
kind
we
of
go. Come
nice.
out, season. How long have you been here? 30 years. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
bugger!
Because Big Finish has done that, hasn't it? Where they'll leave off with the well, they frequently leave off with the companions and then come back later and like continue with more adventures on them. Only it's like 5 years later. I mean, we've seen that happen with Amy Pond even, but still,
The girl who waited.
yeah,
All right. So that's the scene that you liked.
yeah.
All right, Matt. How about you?
Um. Well, speaking of uh Bill William Hartnell being possibly tired of the role, he's suddenly given another very nice, very lovely monologue near the end of the final episode.
Fuck you.
Figures. Somehow that figures. But no, that's a
Mm,
really nice little bit of Bill just talking to himself alone, and just pondering. Am I like always destined to be alone? I can't even have my granddaughter with me. Met all these nice people, and now they've all, for one reason or another, gotten disappointed or just weren't looking around them, instead wanted to focus on something else and have all left. What's the
yeah.
point of my adventuring? Should I go back home? No, that sounds like a really bad idea. Oh, who are you?
Yeah, that was my favorite scene too. In fact, it's the only scene that really stuck out to me. Um, because of yes, it's this wonderful little bit, and it's really the I think it's the first time the Doctor says, "Go back to my home planet."
Mm-hmm.
distinctly noting that it is a planet other than Earth. I mean, yes, we kind of figure that, but I think it's the first time it's explicitly stated in the show. And yes, it drives back the fact that he feels like he can't go home again, which is, a major part of the story for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was just this moment that kind of fleshed out the Doctor a little bit and realized that he is basically just a lonely old man. And that's another theme that continues to this day. The reason the Doctor has companions is because he's lonely.
Just want a mate.
Not with me, Busta. Yeah.
No, 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 not like that. I just want a mate. A friend.
God,
I just want a friend in space.
Oh God!
Oh,
Now,
okay.
now I miss Donna.
Donna was amazing when she was good.
Yeah. Oh. But yeah, I mean that's kind of what you see with that particular tenant scene. That's continuing on, and it's this thing that yes, the Doctor basically has people with him, so he doesn't feel lonely in his his isolation, his exile, and it's a very beautiful, very touching scene because I'm going with it too. Because like I said, that's the only one that particularly stood out
Oh,
to me.
yeah, just found the picture of the Doctor and sitting in his chair when he was thinking it over, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
God, that would be a scene to have back in real footage, wouldn't it?
Oh God, yes, I would love to have seen that full scene because they gave the Doctor every now and then one of these epic, waxing poetic scenes. I mean, like when he said goodbye to Susan in Invasion of Earth, the "I shall come back." It's probably his most famous monologue,
Mm-hmm.
and here
And,
you have another one of these scenes where he is just absolutely he's talking to himself because there's no one there to talk to, and he's just going, he's kind of why am I bothering? It's a beautiful scene. It really is. All right. So now we're
just
move on.
realizing he's a drifter born to walk alone.
Mhm. All right. So Aaron, your least favorite scene.
Mm, I'm trying to think of one that really kind of stood out as awful. Can I do the hotel? I'm gonna go with that one scene between Tavar and Catherine de Medici, just because the telesnap for that was so that one scene, the audio was so bad.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. And again, I know it's a telesnap and they can't do too much for it, but because we do grade the telesnaps, then yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna go Sid.
All right, Matt. How about you?
Hmm.
Because I have nothing to say about that because we've already discussed it.
Yeah. Um. Um. There's a couple of scenes we've mentioned. But which one to go with? Uh I'm gonna go with the really hokeyly, badly edited, badly subtitled sword fight.
God damn it, Matt! You're just here to piss me off tonight, aren't you?
Dang it! No, it's like it's just like, well, this is kind of hokey. Like, there's barely even sound effects happening.
That's kind of my issue with it. Is I'm sitting here, it's just like tink tink, tink tink.
There wasn't even tension music. It's just that bad of a scene.
Well, in defense of that, this is the 1960s BBC, and they really didn't get into using good tension music until the second Doctor era.
I'm not saying that it didn't have good tension. It didn't have good tension music. I'm saying it had no music. Period.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
They could have put in any kind of tension music and it would have been 10 times more effective. At least hiding the sound effects that were apparently not there.
And I think we've gotten spoiled having like Murray Gold do things because
Well, I'm not even saying we need something as fancy as Murray Gold. Give me some tension drums at least. You can do tension drums. Anyone can do tension drums.
imagine taking that. I wish they still had that scene in video. Because could you imagine taking that and dubbing the music from Star Trek in the background? Da, 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 da.
Or Giles' theme. Actually, no, that would probably be the one action scene that Giles' theme couldn't save. It's just that lackluster, apparently, that even the music guys were like, we got nothing to help you with this. Backing it up, let's go.
We should really spend some money on this to bump up the tension with some music. Nah, we can't afford that. No one will notice. Let's just get going on it.
Are you sure? Because this looks really lame. We should actually probably throw some music at it just to, like, liven it up slightly.
Yeah, but
Nah.
you know how much that would cost. No, 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 no. We got that whole stuff coming up
Seriously?
with the
You're talking out
monoids
your
and the
ass.
next
It'll take 20
one.
pence. No, we're not doing it.
We got all that stuff coming up with the monoids and the next serial. And then we've got to do that whole western and the one after that, and then we got that whole like the whole set for that celestial toy maker thing. So yeah, we're pretty booked for a while. Let's just shave off on the music and not do any
Let's
of it.
just not even do tension drums. Let's just move it along, and we got that fanciful musical score for the next episode going. Go on that, work on that instead. Leave me alone. Let me edit the music.
Yeah, you know what? I have a headache. We'll just go with quiet. Yeah, that's the problem. The sound editor was drunk at the time. Had a
Drunk editor
hangover.
was either drunk or annoyed or just indifferent and just sped it along.
Got a hangover. Don't want to do this. Screw this. I'm on commission.
But that's possible too. Like a newbie or just on commission guy, it's just like you don't pay me enough to add music to this scene. Roll it.
All right. So, all right. That's our likes and dislikes, our favorites and least favorites. So now we go on to final thoughts. Aaron.
Okay, so I do kind of find it interesting that it was, and even a little refreshing to have it be a Dr. Light story, and also they did some interesting stuff with them doing the first ever kind of I wouldn't say mistaken identity, but basically the double of the Doctor, where some normal human being looks kind of like the face, it has the same face and voice that the Doctor's using now. So,
Oh, this isn't the original for that.
hmm.
This isn't the original. The Romans did that before this did.
Really? Because I thought that's what it said on TARDIS Wiki, is that it was that's why it was such a tragedy that the episode was lost, because it's like the first time that happened.
This is where they get into it really in depth. In the Romans, the character that was the Doctor's lookalike dies within the first like 10 minutes of the episode.
Okay.
But the Doctor winds up posing as that guy for the rest of the serial almost.
Mm.
Okay. Well, I don't think I've seen the Romans, so I can only go based on what I read and what I've seen. But I thought it was pretty interesting, nevertheless. I didn't. I don't know. The historical drama can really bog it down, mostly because you're required to know a lot of stuff, or at least be somewhat familiar with the whole Protestant versus Catholic thing, the Huguenots, the just basic politics of Paris, the Medici family, and how devious they've there's a reason why they're always cast as villains. Almost as you know a Medici was the subject of Machiavelli's The Prince, basically. That's how that book came to be written. So and but again, if you're not that familiar with world history and stuff like that, this episode is really, it's going to go from edutainment to just
What?
kind of tedious for people who don't want to sit there and read a bunch of history. I mean, so I can understand that.
And this, by the way, is where the American public school system fails completely. Just FYI.
Mhm. Yeah,
World
like,
history, yeah.
I mean, I don't mind reading up on it. I just didn't have any time to do it today because I was busy running
I
around
didn't do
doing
reading
work.
up on it either, but I will say that where we got these stills from also had an intro and outro, and the intro does
Yeah.
very briefly cover the history really quick.
I was a
Yeah.
little more familiar with the subject as I am French descent and took a deal of time in my high school days to look up, my nationalistic history.
Mhm.
So I'm aware of, the story behind it, albeit not in a lot of detail, but enough to get by.
Yeah. In fact, they even mention like Germanology and stuff like that, like the and the fact that um, not telescope, the microscope was invented in Germany, and now the apothecary that he's visiting can go research all he wants about germs and everything, and that's basically what he was talking about. So that's the thing, is that the doctor doesn't mind meddling with history there. Stephen does kind of have a point. They don't mind meddling with history there. They don't mind bringing Katerina with them onto the TARDIS and whatnot. But like bringing in Chaplet would have destroyed history or something like that, have ruined everything. And here the doctor has just informed one of the leading researchers on germs before germs were even a thing, when people were still speculating about all of that. That microscope has just been invented in Germany, and they can go research that. I mean, I don't know, maybe the guy would have found out eventually, but
I think that one might have been something that was already happening, and thus it was just the fact that word hadn't gotten there quite yet. But still, at the same time, you got to wonder if the doctor really, his reasoning for not letting them Anne on board is he didn't want Anne and Stephen having sex in his TARDIS. Damn kids!
Damn kids, get off my TARDIS.
yeah.
This is a spaceship, not a mating ground.
Didn't stop Amy and Rory a few hundred years later, but
Yeah.
let's not talk about that.
Well, and I didn't hate this episode, but I could see why people would think it would drag on a bit. It's not even as entertaining as the previous Telesnap. So, and not to be honest, a lot of the characters, other than Catherine, a lot of the characters really kind of didn't stand out, except for maybe Anne for being kind of meek and stuff like that. And Steven is probably the big go-getter again, but probably
And
fulfilling a role that he probably should have fulfilled in the last Telesnap we covered in the Mythmakers.
Anne would have made an interesting companion because she would have been the first Scream companion.
Mm-hmm.
She would have been the first person to scream at everything, a role that would later, of course, go to Victoria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Matt, how about you? Final thoughts?
Oh, that was a rambling final thought. Anyway, um,
It's not like we're short on time.
true. Um, in a box, this is not a bad story per se, but I do feel that the telesnaps were a little bit lazy on this one as compared to the previous one. They seem to put a lot more effort in the previous telesnaps that we had. Um, Also, the audio is terrible in parts to the point that it's really hard to hear. There are moments in the actual show which needed a lot more dedication, which just didn't happen, sadly. Uh, but beyond the little negatives, there's a lot of interesting stuff like the William Hartnell being able to do more than one role for a change. Whether or not that was the Doctor Incognito, we're not sure. Mm, they're not going to tell us apparently.
Signs
Um,
point to no.
some signs point to no, yes. Some interesting historical stuff, which some of it you don't need to have a history lesson, but some of it, if you're not at all clued in, yeah, maybe. Um, it's nice to see again, as I mentioned before, Steven actually doing something other than being a blunt brick. Don't get me wrong, Jamie McCrimmon did that really well, but that was Jamie's thing, not Steven's thing. Steven is an astronaut. He is not a fighter. And I liked also that we did have some double takes on things that suddenly flipped around in the last episode. And that's about it.
All right. So, my thoughts on this episode. Yes, first of all, the telesnaps are mediocre. The sound quality is terrible. The story is okay, but does seem to be kind of not really amounting to anything. Really, this felt like 4 episodes of them killing time, is kind of what it felt like. 4 episodes of filler. And I hate it when a whole serial of Doctor Who feels like nothing but filler. Um,
That that
so that
that would be
didn't
the name of
endear.
a story, Killing Time.
I think that might have been a Big Finish audio. Um, anyway, this felt like filler, and that's always going to be a disappointment for me when it comes to a Doctor Who serial. If it felt like it absolutely made no difference to anything, it's not going to be high in my ratings. Hartnell did get to stretch his acting chops a little, which is good, but there wasn't really much else to say about it. To be honest, kind of a whole lot of meh. And yes, my yawn is to pretty much state that point.
Which is why you talked through it.
So that's 3 of us. Now we go to ratings, and Aaron, you're first. You gave the last one a 3.5.
Hmm. I
And
think
where are you
I'm gonna
putting the?
go ahead and give this a 3.0.
All right, Matt.
I was actually already agreeing with that sentiment before she said it. I'll take a 3.0 on that one.
All right, I have to give this a 2.5.
Ooh.
I have to because I gave the Myth Makers a 3.0, and this wasn't as good as the Myth Makers.
Ouza. Okay.
So with only the 3 of us reporting this evening, um, and nobody else there. Although we can have a review of Shame from Tim next week.
Possibly, yes. And maybe a review of Shame from Bill whenever he can catch up.
If he's had a chance to even watch it, yeah. Anyway, that comes out to an average tonight of a 2.8.
Yep.
Yow. Let me make sure that went
Well,
through.
let's just find that basement for you to dwell in, Massacre.
Oh,
Let's
yeah,
get
this.
massacred.
Oh, it is not going to be the basement.
It's not gonna be the basement, but it's gonna definitely be in the basement area. It's
Yeah,
not gonna
because
be the sub basements. It's gonna be like a high up basement.
yeah, it's. I mean, because nothing's going to beat Journey, the only Doctor Who serial we've ever reviewed that's gotten less than a 1.
The Massacre could at least have a one little half window that peek out of it and see light every once in a while.
All right, so 242 things reviewed. Uh, the Massacre. I forgot to do some stuff today, so we get to wait while I actually fill in the. Well, we get to wait while I actually fill in the fields I was supposed to have filled in uh a while ago. Okay, so average of 2.8 would put the massacre. Uh, it's been a long week, folks. Oh wait, I forgot to get the other column in there.
Like I said,
I'm
I'm just
not.
glad I don't have to clean in the morning. And at most, I might, out of kindness of my heart, hop outside with a shovel and clean the walkway.
All right. All right, 2.8 puts the massacre at number 209 of 242. So down there,
Like I said, he gets to
it
have a little half window to peek out and see sunlight once in a
it
blue
is
moon.
on par with the Tribe of Gum without an unearthly child,
Oof.
the TV movie,
Ouch.
Hyde,
Mm.
Angels Take Manhattan,
Oh.
Revenge of the Cybermen, Voyage of the Damned, Destiny of the Doctor, Enemy Aliens, The Crimson Horror,
Oof.
Time of the Doctor, Aliens of London, World War III. Actually, no, excuse me. Time of the Doctor got above that. So I'm sorry. It is better than Mind Warp and Victory of the Daleks, and not as good as Time of the Doctor and Aliens of London, World War III.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yowza massacre. Yowza.
Yep.
Some cleaner audio and some animation might do you some good. Otherwise, yeah, this has been an absolute fail.
Yep. We'll see if anything can bring it up between what Bill and Tim review it as in the upcoming week.
Otherwise,
Other
it's
than that,
stuck where it is.
yep. So there we go. 2.8. Number 207. Excuse me. I made a correction. Or excuse me, not 207. 209. That's all we have to say for the massacre.
All right, so I guess I'll take us out then.
Yep. Get used to it.
Well, it's not that I'm not used to it. I'm just making sure if we're ready to go. All right. So, with that being said, thank you all for joining us tonight. Don't forget you can also follow us in various places. You can find our videos at YouTube at Unearthly Podcast. You can find our Twitch profile at Unearthly Podcast. Twitter, you can find us at Unearthly Pod. Facebook, you can find our Facebook page, Unearthly Podcast. And if you enjoy the show and want to throw us a buck or two, you can always help out the channel and the podcast by joining our Patreon at An Unearthly Podcast.
All right. Next week. So that does it for the historicals for the moment, but not the telesnaps. Stephen and Dodo would continue through the Ark, the Celestial Toymaker, and the Gunfighters, but Stephen finally does decide to leave in The Savages, written by Ian Stewart Black and starring William Hartnell as the Doctor, Peter Purvis as Stephen Taylor, and Jackie Lane as Dodo Chaplet. See you for that next week.
See y'all next time.
Hopefully with at least one more person on the panel.
Hopefully. See you all next week.